Legends Arceus introduced new evolutions for old Pokemon, which Pokemon do you think are going to get new evolutions in Legends ZA? I mean, just look at it. Dedenne is practically begging for a new evolution. We'll talk about that little guy later, but for now, I want you to pick a card. Oh, you're going for that one? What? No, I'm not judging you. It's fine. You pulled a Go-Go. That's not bad. Go-Goat was introduced in Generation 6, but is severely underwhelming. Design-wise, I feel like it's a pretty good mix between realistic and fantastical. Like, you know, not every Pokemon has to be a fire-breathing 100-foot tall dragon. My main issue with Go-Goat is more so how it plays. It's frail, it doesn't hit very hard, it's got useful abilities and a decent moveset, but it very quickly becomes useless when you're playing through any Pokemon game. The most interesting part of Go-Goat, I think, is you get to ride it around Lumio City in Pokemon X and Y. I remember when I was younger, because X and Y were the first Pokemon games I ever played, I saw some official art of the player riding Go-Goat around, and I loved the art style, I loved the atmosphere, and for some reason it really stuck with me. If Go-Goat gets an evolution in Legends ZA, it would be the perfect opportunity to bring all of these ideas one step further. It could be used as a ride Pokemon to move quickly around Lumio City, similar to Weirdeer in Legends Arceus, and it could finally have the stats to actually be useful in a playthrough. On top of all of this, its pre-evolution Skiddo is actually found on Route 5, which is just outside of Lumio City, so, you know, it wouldn't be difficult to add it to the game. Another Pokemon I wanted to talk about is actually a bit different, I'd say. You know, while Go-Goat is a charming Pokemon that has great potential, Diggersby is just awful. I really like ground-type Pokemon. I just don't think Diggersby does anything special to help it stand out from any of the other early route normal-type Pokemon. It does have the hidden ability Huge Power to double its attack stat, but hidden abilities are only really found at the very end of any modern games. And I mean, in Generation 6, you'll probably never find a Diggersby with its hidden ability. I think an evolution would not only help it become really strong and a really likable Pokemon, I think it would also really fit in with the themes introduced in Legends ZA. Are you tired of me saying ZA? I get so many comments about it. I know, I'm British. I say Z. You know what? Let's make a deal. If you subscribe right now, I will stop saying ZA. Okay? Have you done it? I suppose I can't really check. I don't know why I'm asking. I mean, or if you're just enjoying the video, you can subscribe for that too. Anyway, the one trailer we have for the game so far tells us about how the game focuses on expanding Lumio City and building the bonds between people and Pokemon. Not only is Bunnelby adorable, but Diggersby also has a very obvious construction theme. Let me read out some of these Pokedex entries for you. They can heft boulders with ease. They can be a big help at construction sites. It's as powerful as an excavator and can dig through dense bedrock. I can picture a side quest early in the game where, you know, some construction workers tell you that they need help with construction, and so they ask you to find them a Bunnelby. In X and Y, it can also be found on Route 5, which, you know, as we mentioned earlier, is just outside of Lumio City, so it would be a great early game area. Bit of a tone shift here, but I think Hawlucha would be a great candidate for a new evolution. In X and Y, this Pokemon is actually used by Coroner, the Mega Evolution successor, the character that first introduces you to Mega Evolution. While they were obviously intended to be a way to show off Mega Lucario, I think it would be really interesting to see the rest of their team get more attention. In fact, when you battle Coroner in the Battle Chateau, she only uses 2 Pokemon, her Mega Lucario alongside her Hawlucha. In Pokemon X and Y, there's a bit of discussion about how Coroner and her grandfather are said to be related to the first trainer to discover Mega Evolution in Kalos alongside their very own Lucario. If Legends ZA is set in the future, like a lot of people have been theorizing and speculating, it would be really interesting to see Coroner return, you know, much older and having fully trained their Hawlucha, training it so much that perhaps it's even evolved. I mean, heck, you could even add a bit of lore in there that says, you know, maybe Hawlucha's evolution isn't even found in Kalos, but instead an entirely different region. Perhaps Coroner is the one that gives you a special item or teaches you a special technique that you need to evolve Hawlucha. Did you know that Litleo, introduced in Generation 6, can only be found in one area in all of Kalos. To be honest, it's such an unimportant area, you might have just missed it entirely. After evolving into Pyroar, it only gets worse for this little guy because it doesn't really have anything going for it. I talked earlier about how I think Gogoat is a good mix between realistic and fantastical, but I think Pyroar is the perfect example of a Pokemon that doesn't respect this balance at all. It's just a lion. It's a slightly redder lion. It has bad stats, bad abilities, and also Litleo is really ugly. I'm sorry, that last bit doesn't really have anything to do with what I'm talking about. It had to be said though. Pyroar getting an evolution would be a perfect way for this incredibly mediocre Pokemon to finally stand out. It actually reminds me a lot of Ursaring, a Pokemon that is literally just a bear. In Legends Arceus, it finally got some recognition and evolved into Ursaluna, which very quickly became one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. You know, Pyroar could be next. It could be one tiny evolution away from becoming the favorite of millions of players around the world. For now, though, it's just a lion. Its Pokédex entries describe how the females protect the pride's cubs, and a male will protect its friends with no regard for its own safety. With both Generation 6 and Legend ZA having a focus on the bonds between trainers and their Pokemon, it would be really interesting to see an evolution that could reflect these traits. I mean, it's not like an evolution for Pyroar would be impossible to design. It's a lion. It shares a name with a constellation. Make it look like the sun or something, I don't know. If we're talking about really forgettable Pokemon though, I think this is a great time to mention Heliolisk. I suppose giving Heliolisk a Mega Evolution would work as well, but I much prefer how permanent regular evolutions are. I mean, Mega Evolution has been missing for almost 7 years now. Heliolisk kinda suffers from the same problems as Pyroar since it can only be found in one area of Kalos, but at the very least, it's an area you have to travel through to beat the game. It's kinda slightly cute too, I guess. You know, I wouldn't be that surprised if a lot of people watching this have had Helioptile on any of their teams before. My main issue with it really is that it evolves when given a Sunstone. If you know anything about older Pokemon games, you'll know how annoying all of these evolution stones are to find. Of course, they are much easier to find in modern games, but I still think that this was the main reason I've never really used it on any of my teams. With Legends ZA being open world and likely having so many more Sunstones to find, I think it would be a great idea to reintroduce Heliolisk into the spotlight by giving it an evolution. I mean, even just on its own, Heliolisk is pretty weak. I've never used it, but it's probably a decent mid-game Pokemon. It's decently fast, it hits hard enough. I just think it's quite outclassed by a lot of other stronger or cuter electric-type Pokemon like Luxray, Emolga, Dedenne, and actually especially electric-type Pokemon that got Mega Evolutions like Ampharos and Electrike. Oh, talking about Dedenne actually, this is a great time to bring it up, huh? Dedenne is a really cute Pokemon. If you're somehow unaware, it falls into the category of Pika Clone, which are cute electric-type Pokemon that are added in every generation of Pokemon games, either to try to capitalize on the success of Pikachu, or just to pay homage to it. Scarlet and Violet recently broke a tradition with its Pika clone Pawmi, making it the first ever Pika clone to evolve. Legends ZA would be a great time to allow Dedenne to be the first ever Pika clone to get a cross-generation evolution. One of the main reasons I think an evolution would be great for Dedenne is actually its Pokédex entry. It doesn't mention this in any other game, but in Pokemon Scarlet, its Pokédex entry says its electricity generating organ is not fully developed. What if this was meant to be a hint that an evolution for Dedenne is right around the corner in Legends ZA? Quickly moving along from a very popular Pokemon to a very controversial Pokemon. Klefki was introduced in X and Y and is actually really fun to use. It has the ability Prankster, meaning its status moves are given priority, allowing them to move before any other attack. It also learns Thunder Wave, so you're able to immediately paralyze your opponent's Pokemon, reduce the damage it deals with Reflect and Light Screen, and then you can switch out and sweep with another Pokemon. It's trivially easy. It also has a really good defensive typing, being a Fairy and Steel type, but I think its main issue is that it's really fragile rail. You could probably just like look at it funny and it would keel over. An evolution would be a great fit for Klefki, perhaps allowing it to be slightly bulkier, or maybe focusing instead on giving it even more status moves to allow it to be even more disruptive with its ability. On top of that, I think an evolution would help a lot of people look at Klefki in a new way, you know, finally being able to appreciate its design. To be fair, I think a lot of people have changed their opinions on Klefki. It was introduced 11 years ago, it's been a while, but still, I think a lot of people really need to take a good look at it, and an evolution would be a great way to go about it. I've actually seen quite a few fan-made designs for a Mega Klefki, but you know, I've already talked about how I'm not really that excited for any new Mega Evolutions. I suppose the only exception would be the Kalos starters, but only because they really deserved to get a Mega Evolution in X and Y. You know, they've been waiting for this. Talking about starter Pokemon, I actually made a video figuring out which starter Pokemon are going to make an appearance in Legends ZA. If you just click on the video on screen, you can watch it right now.